Welcome back, everyone. We're starting to get towards the end of our 3-day data conference, but do not miss this session. Like, I'm so excited about this. You can change your pricing all day long, but if your web pages look like shit, it's not going to help anything at all. So what we've got here is Amber and 3 bald guys in the industry. Really excited to have this panel together. Extremely smart people. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. I just want you guys to do your thing. So Amber, my good friend, mentor, working with forever, which you probably heard in the first session. I'm going to let you take it away. Thanks, you guys.
Awesome. This is probably one of the topics I'm most passionate about, so I'm super excited to be able to dig in on this. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in the industry for about 20 years. And right now I'm in the middle of building something exciting that I'll get to show in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure Amy will help me. And do a lot of consulting domestically and internationally with lots of different vacation rental companies. And this is often a topic I'm helping with. So super excited. And we'll be giving these guys a hard time today and asking them tough questions. So I hope they're ready. How about you, Jack?
Sounds good. I'm totally down for tough questions, Amber, anytime.
All right, Peter, Jack, you want to say a little bit about yourself real quick?
Sure thing. Thanks for having us here. Some of you may know me from the previous session that we did on Tuesday, but my name is Jack Newkirk and I'm an enterprise sales consultant with Navis. Been with the company about 3 years and in hospitality about 14, both in Australia and here in the United States on the hotel side, as well as the vacation rental side. So happy to bring some of that to bear today.
Awesome. Peter?
Nice. Thanks, Amber. And to Amy's point, very much happy to be here. This is an interesting topic, how it kind of bolts on the side of pricing and data revenue. And from a tactical advantage standpoint, you got to be able to have a marketplace that takes these reservations and takes the money. Let's see, I've been at Blue Tent. I think I got my 19th year anniversary this year, so that's good. I got that going for me. Otherwise, Blue Tent, I believe we just crossed the 775th website that we have out there that's a vacation rental booking website, and should push pretty close to about $1 billion in direct bookings across our clients' web platforms. So looking forward to sharing some of the tactics and some of the observations that we've seen, certainly over the last 6 months, but hopefully over the last 19 years.
Awesome. And Paul, do you want to give a little intro?
I can. I got some on my slides too, but I'll give you the quick overview. I'm Paul Hannock. I've been marketing director for IC&D Intercoastal Net Designs, as you may also know us as, for 4 years now. And I've been in the industry for just over a decade, about 13 years. So been doing direct marketing, SEO, pay-per-click since I can remember, before Google existed, actually. IC&D is a web development and marketing company. We specialize in vacation rental websites, building them out to the most direct booking and online booking advantages that we can possibly shove into them. So that's my elevator pitch.
Awesome. Well, guys, and I don't mind who wants to answer first here. You guys can talk over each other, whatever else you need to do at the end of the day here to get your point across. But, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, especially during COVID, is some interesting trends in how in direct bookings. I don't want to kind of spoil it, but have you seen an increase or decrease or a change in direct bookings across your client base?
We've seen monumental growth. The net, actually, and a lot of you that are tuned in, I saw the attendee. I think I got a 1:30 a.m. email about 2 weeks ago with the graph of growth, year-over-year growth by website versus channels, because we do quite a few channel bookings as far as what growth was, and it was book direct for the win by far.
I think almost by double, right, Peter?
Yeah. In about the 88 to 92% range is about what we're seeing. Yeah, year over year. Some places, especially like East Coast beaches, well over 100%.
Paul, what about you?
Yeah, it's very market specific. We've got clients, coast to coast, and we see that the more infiltration that the OTAs have into some of these markets, the more dominant independent these property managers are. So those numbers do fluctuate. Some of them are getting more independent and putting their foot forward and trying to do direct bookings, but others are struggling to cut that cord and let go of the OTAs. So not a bad thing, not a good thing. It's just one of those the market dependent situations that we're in.
And Jack, what about you? On the markets as they opened up, especially the destination markets, I know it's a little bit different in the cities, but in the destination markets, kind of what trends did you see as far as the phone volume?
It went off the charts. So one of the things that we consider a lagging indicator at Navis is we have our ResForce team, which is a group of reservationists that take overflow and after hours reservation calls for a couple hundred clients across the country. And one of the things that we noticed was that by the time July rolled around, our ResForce calls had already increased year over year. And we were just taking the calls that our own clients couldn't handle. So not only are we taking more calls, that means that exponentially our clients are taking more calls than they were before.
I think
Part of that, oh, go ahead, Peter.
Go ahead, Jack. Nope.
All right. I think that the main reason for that is due, and we know this now from the data, that there is so much more high consideration being paid to every single reservation now where they want to make absolutely certain about cleaning regimes and sanitation policies and everything else before they make their reservation. The easiest way or most efficient way for a lot of folks to do that is to pick up the phone and speak with a human.
And Jack, I'm sure you guys saw that, but I mean, as we went from April and May, which were dark days, and all of a sudden the switch flipped that basically in June, like the phone banks were overwhelmed, and it was the clients that had invested in that web platform to be able to so, and we'll share some of these observations, but that's where it is so cool to have a Navis viewpoint of Navis filters that relates to. It's funny, Amber, you got some people walking behind you. I'm in the office here too. I got Sam Campisi walking behind me, so it is fun to start getting back into the office a little bit. But we saw that when that switch flipped, there wasn't enough phone. There was so much demand pent up, and so that was remarkable.
I think that was compounded too, Peter, by the fact that a lot of folks had laid off staff as well. And so demand was higher and their capability of servicing the demand was lower.
Yeah.
Right.
So Peter, I know that you have some slides, so maybe that'll help us dig in. And while you're pulling those up, and Amy, if you can let Peter share his screen so he can share some of his slides. I think it is interesting to talk about what staffing looks like just as web volume increases as far as visitors and transactions. I think a lot of clients are seeing a parallel in their call centers, and at least for several of my clients, we have more staff during COVID than we had pre-COVID once we were able to open up, just due to the overwhelming volume.
We literally practiced this. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to hit pause while I figure out where my tab went. Sorry about that. We literally practiced this.
Oh, there we are. Having 100 things up on our screen.
Jack, is that kind of in line with what you're hearing, that call center staffing is higher than pre-COVID due to the volume?
There certainly are reinvesting in call center staffing, but I think that there's, depending on whether or not you're talking hotel or vacation rental, it's very different for the two. Vacation rental side, I've spoken with many folks like Doug Brindley at Brindley Beach who never did lay off a single person, right on down to folks maybe in more severely hit mountain markets that shuttered their contact centers entirely and started rolling all of their calls to the front desk. The problem with that is rehiring those people was really difficult with the supplemental unemployment insurance lasting all the way through the summer. For many folks, it was a lot safer for them and easier and more profitable to simply stay at home and continue to collect unemployment than it was to go back to work. So I think that there's a threshold right at July 31 when those benefits expired in many states where you saw the change with hiring start to happen. If you were to speak with Steve Trover over at Levere & Co., he can tell you some great stories about some of the recruiting they've been doing.
All right, Peter, you ready for us?
Yeah, I'm ready. Sorry, we practiced it, and then I hit it left when it was supposed to go right. So what I wanted to do is I'm just going to share a couple of things that we saw really paid dividends for vacation rental managers over the last 6 months. And then ideas for you from a data revenue and from a data and revenue management perspective. How can you take like all of the technology or people or the combination of which we've learned a lot about this week, is it takes both people and technology to like come up with the strategy and the implementation. But now this is your marketplace. So you've built your marketplace. Braden Flaherty was on a little bit this morning talking about how to address OTAs and like your Airbnbs, your Verbos, your Booking.coms, your Google Travels with your pricing. I want to walk you through 6 things that if I were you guys, this would be absolutely necessary for what people are looking for. So the first thing that we want to continue to remind people is that there's a big piece about a peace of mind right now, and so that really does flow into security. And so I still remember, and Amber and Paul, I'm sure you guys remember back in the day when you used to have the Network Solutions SSL certificate on the bottom of the page, and that was like being secure. But now that we've moved into the cloud, now that we've moved into a whole new era of cybersecurity, PCI compliant checkout pages gives guests the confidence that they need to book direct. I think that Paul talked a little bit about how it is so geographically specific as it relates to where OTAs dominate a market or at least win a market versus book direct. And for sure, you're not going to have a chance to win those markets if you don't have confidence in booking direct. So how you show this, how you display this, how you really make it go is a big part of what we're seeing our clients really invest in, almost from the most important page on the website, which is how am I going to take your money, all the way back to what does the logo look like on the homepage. It's a little bit of a change from where we've been over the last, say, decade, where we'd spend 10 weeks talking about the color of the logo, and then by the time you're ready to launch the website, it's like, oh yeah, here's our checkout page. Interesting to kind of see how the evolution of that has unfolded. I do also want to remind people that are tuning in that if you do have questions or anything, please pop them in. We're going to have a pretty robust Q&A going on. So if you do have comments or questions, would love to touch on that. Okay, so now the other piece that Jack talked a lot about, which is people want to curate their trips, and this flexible cancellation policy. So this is back to building trust and attracting new travelers. So if you've got a book direct strategy, so number one, we want to make sure that we're collecting your money in a way that's PCI compliant. I think that that's so important. But now also too, within your checkout pages and within really the whole content of your website, you see this more and more. Almost every travel website you go to now has some type of COVID pop-up, has COVID be flexible, how do you want to manage your trip? And now with flexible cancellation insurance, you have the ability now to offer cancel for any reason insurance. And we're seeing a major uptick in our professional managers that are taking advantage of that. So I've seen literally hundreds of professional managers offer this as if the Scott family is heading to Telluride for the weekend, I have the opportunity now to have cancel for any reason insurance, that there's an upcharge for the reservation on. So that's a big thing that we're seeing. Having that flexibility also puts you on par with what the OTAs are doing, and that if I go and book at Airbnb, I essentially get a cancel for any reason extenuating circumstances clause. This allows you to actually get paid for it. So we're seeing a big adoption in cancel for any reason insurance, something that you absolutely should be looking at in this new era of travel. Okay, so now we're starting to get into some to payments, right? So like how we're displaying pricing. We talked about how we're collecting pricing, and we want to be super, super clear on what it looks like to have PCI compliant pages so that we have that level of trust. But now we're starting to roll out affordable payment options. I remember in Yeah, I'm sure all of us have this year kind of segmented into like the rolling January and February was like, woohoo, we're setting new records. Then March, April, May sucked. And now we're especially if you're in the East Coast location, I was told by one of our larger clients that they did 14 months of business in about 8 months, and a bit of embarrassment of riches. So they did very well. And it goes back to what a friend of mine actually down in Gulf Shores talked about, was she said that people will sell their couches to go on a beach vacation. Well, now we've got the ability to have affordable payment options. So now this is built into your web checkout that allows you to now break up your Outer Banks vacation, your Maui vacation into individual payments so that you can kind of work through it that way, allows you to pay by monthly. And our partners at Ascent Pay, we've now been rolling this into Res Fusion. So you have the ability to add this. So this gives you another kind of trusted piece of like, okay, cool, these guys are really wanting to win my business. Okay, so
Peter,
now,
can I ask a quick question for you? Can we go back for a second?
Yep.
Paul and Jack, you guys can speak up on this too if you have insights on it. But how does that align? Does this only work on your website? And I'm asking for the audience, how does this work? Does it only work on the website, or can the call center also offer this product for the payments?
That might, you said you were going to ask hard questions. That might be a little bit out of my pay grade. I'd actually have Paul G from Ascent Pay. Great, you know, as we've learned in this vacation rental space, it's good to have friends and it's good to have networks. We've been so laser focused on getting this darn thing to show up on websites, Amber. I don't know the answer to that.
I do have some insight into that, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Jack.
Well, yeah, before Dawn Yaskulski left Ascent, I was visiting her with her about that, and she was hoping that the Navis Resforce team would be able to utilize that for our clients too. So if your own call center gets a request for that, that should be easy because it's in house. But what happens when that call goes to a third party like Navis? And it was pretty straightforward how it would work with us, where simply there's a link that gets pushed out to the guest afterwards, so the agent doesn't have to take any personal identifying information or anything like that. So it's a pretty seamless rollout is what it seemed to me from a workflow perspective.
Nice. Leave it to Jack to have the big picture. I just get a little narrow focused, Amber, sometimes. How do we get this darn thing to show up on the website?
Yeah, no, it's okay. One of my clients, we have Ascent and we use it, and you can use it in the call center. I just wanted to point it out that it's something that, again, and I think, Jack, you can speak to this a bit, and Paul, but how important is parity in being able to have these options on your website for direct bookings as well as in your call center? And when there are differences in what can be offered, what happens from a guest perspective?
So the question is, when you don't have rate parity between the two?
Rates, cancellation policies, or a functionality like this with payments?
I think that there's two different sides of the coin to consider. And the first one is, how are your rates driving people to you? And then the second side of the coin is, what happens when guests have problems with your rates? And Navis really doesn't do a lot in terms of publishing rates other than email marketing and things like that. But what does happen when an agent receives a call that the guest is confused, or it's more than they expected, or whatever it would be? And so that's the direction that I would like to talk, if we have a few minutes, to discuss how agents respond to that. Is that what you were asking, Amber? Fantastic.
Right,
Awesome. Well, then,
yeah,
Amy.
I'm basically trying to get down to, direct bookings is one of the only channels that's phone and online. And oftentimes, if you are really narrow focused and only bring a functionality to the web, it can be harmful, just like if it was only available in the call center. So kind of wanting to give that perspective of, how do you create that parity and make sure it happens?
Well, that's a good question. So there's two ways to consider that again. So the first one is this: if you're using a tool like Navis to publish marketing emails and rates, etc., anytime a Navis client is using those tools to push out a special into the universe, and a guest calls in on that campaign. So let's say it's Paul's Hotel, and he sends out an email blast, and it's book between now and the end of the week, and get a second night for 50% off. that email is going to generate phone calls, and guests are going to call in on it. Prospective guests are going to call in on it. And so in order to avoid the confusion that inevitably results between a breakdown between marketing and reservation sales, which is, marketing just throws stuff out there, and then the reservations agents, they're the ones that are like, is this a special that we've been running? Do I work? What? What we have been able to do at Navis is we've been able to append those actual campaigns, the image of the email itself, to the unique toll-free number that goes on the email that goes out. So Paul sends his email out, book now, get 50% off your next night. A guest, Peter, receives that email and he calls the unique 800 number on that. When that call populates in front of the agent that actually answers it, they'll be able to click and see the exact email that the guest saw and not have to go fishing through any multiple rate codes or contacting their supervisor or the marketing team to figure out what's going on here. So that's one way to avoid that confusion, is to have technology that presents the information that the guest saw directly to the agent when they answer the phone, in order to, first of all, shorten handle time, which is really important during really high call volume periods like right now. And secondly, avoid confusion, because confusion, as we say in this industry, a confused mind says no. So if the guest is confused and the agent is confused, there's a good chance you're going to lose that booking. So the more information you can provide to those agents, the better. That's thing one. Thing two is the inevitable rate resistance that guest may have to the special that's been put out there. I don't know if now is the right time in the conversation to talk about that, so I might save that for later and turn it back over to you, Amber, if that answered your question.
No, that's great. Yeah, Peter, you can keep going. I just thought that was a great segue into talking about that parity between your call center.
No, and that connecting the dots, Jack, I think you say that very well, and I might steal a little content from you. I like that. A confused mind says no. No wonder I'm always just kind of walking around.
My wife tells me that all the time.
That's good. That's good content. Okay, so affordable payment options. So yeah, being able to have that. Let's go into, okay, so specials. So it was an interesting summer. There wasn't quite as much special stuff going on. A lot of this kind of comes back to, how does your brand, how do you want to show savings? How do you want to, when you're changing rates, like there might be just the rate that's changing, right? And that's changing daily by either a software algorithm. You're working with a team at either like a RevMax at Streamline, or the Rented guys that are kind of working with you through that. So your prices are changing all the time. So now you're coming back to like your web nerds and saying, well, how can I get, how can I take some confusion out of the mind so that somebody hits this darn book now button? And there's a few, I've got a few examples of how this has been worked on, okay? So you've got one here that is just pretty clear that you've got like your 10% off that shows you exactly how much you're gonna save. Another one, you might wanna have it and show strike through pricing. Another one, you might want to just have a specific promo code for somebody to come in for a Black Friday sale. Many of you guys are going to start to, hopefully everybody's going to catch their breath here over the next couple of weeks. And then you're starting to get ready for your after Thanksgiving bookings. You're right. We're going to start booking for next summer. There's going to be really, really strong demand for next summer. Earlier, because of what we saw this summer, because demand was so high. So like things like you'll see a lot of people that are like, I'll save $100 off your reservation for the first 100 people that book. We have a lot of clients that they'll let that thing go for as many people as possible. So they'll run that. So it really kind of comes into, what is your strategy for last minute availability and midweek gaps? Like that's a big killer for a lot of us, right? Where you have somebody checking out on a Tuesday and not checking in until a Friday. There's a lot of midweek gaps that allow you to kind of maybe the way you're displaying pricing, the way that you're dictating that is going to allow you to really shrink that piece. Also, too, we're seeing shoulder season get pushed out. Like I'm looking at the Outer Banks right now. Through October, we're averaging like 90% occupancy. Like that doesn't happen. So these shoulder seasons, especially this year, are really pushed out. So your ability to really kind of fill houses and target people with this UX UI is a big deal. And also too, I like to look at this as either boost new or underperforming properties, or if you got to do a solid for one of your homeowners. Like a big thing, it is nice if you got a homeowner that's like, man, I just lost out, I got killed because when the ski area stopped spinning lifts on March 15th, I had 25 days of really high ADR. that got just wiped off. What can you do to help me out, Mr. and Mrs. Vacation Rental Manager? Well, cool, I'm going to profile your property here. So it's really a nice way for you to not only service the guest, but at the end of the day, pretty much everybody on this webinar and attending this event knows that at the end of the day, this is all about owners and how you get more inventory and how you keep inventory. And this is having specials is really a nice way to do it. I know, Paul, you'll probably talk a little bit about this too, but the different ways that you want to develop urgency marketing. This many people saw it, 45, this many left. Obviously, we've been stealing this from Amazon and United and Marriott over the last 5-10 years. What are the messages that work? How does it work within your brand? What are you trying to do? So really driving the urgency marketing piece allows you to really make the most of your pricing strategies. And this is a little bit of where you've been working and investing in technology and people and teams to really fit, to build your model for what's my model for my pricing strategy. Now it's on to the web nerds to make sure that we're able to get this out to the marketplace for your most efficient, effective, and hopefully most popular booking agent. And Jack and I, we'll have beers and fight about that. But you know, how do we put conversion tactics in the hand of somebody on the phone? Well, we're talking about, hey, we only have a little bit of this left. Well, that's the same as if I'm going to the website. So really building this urgency marketing into your overall platform. Now, the last piece here is continuing to build booking abandonment emails into your website. And again, you know, you got to tip your hat to what the Amazonians do up there. And we're seeing a lot of this now in the vacation rental space, which is, hey, you forgot to hit buy now. Oh gosh, sorry. So starting your reservation with a login and continue filter. You can easily X out of it. We have not seen conversion rates that people are always like, I don't want to have anything impact conversion rates. We did not see a major impact in conversion rates when you overlay this. When I hit the book now, boom, start reservation comes up. I can kill this and just go in and do it, or I can put name, email. Now, once this thing comes back, and I know Navis has tools like this, Blue Tent has tools like this, I think Streamline has some tools like this. They're really, really effective because your e-commerce conversion rate really, really bumps up significantly. Your engagement rate bumps up significantly. And this is a bit of how people are shopping. These are big ticket purchases. And so they may start a reservation and then come back to it. So really want you guys to embed this booking abandonment email within your overall platform, okay? Last slide for me is how do you maximize revenue per reservation? Okay, you do that with packages and add-ons. You do that on your platform by making it easy to add the breakfast package, add the paddleboard, and add selections and continue. A lot of the software platforms now are making it easier than ever for you to be really the one-stop shop for your vacation rental. So I know I'm going a little bit over. Thank you again. Shout out to our Blue Tent team for getting me these examples and the individuals that are working through that. So to learn more, always go to Blue Tent and connect with us, and we'll look forward to hearing from you and look forward to being part of the team. So I will pass it over to, I'll just stop sharing.
Yeah, let's get Paul kind of on board here and get some kind of insights from your perspective. I know that, you know, as another web developer in the space, that IC&D has a really diverse set of clients. So interesting to see if the trends that you're seeing are similar to Peter's. Specifically with pricing, I mean, one of the things, and Peter, we didn't touch on this, but I'll give Paul first shot at it, is, you know, in the past, the APIs from the PMS software didn't let us put the totals on search results. We were just caching rates and having to come up with averages, et cetera. Has there been any movement on that front so that we can give better, more accurate pricing in search results?
Yes, but it still depends on the PMS. I'm not sure if I want to name any, but Come
on, Paul.
There's because I might leave one out and then I'd feel bad. But it does depend on the PMS as far as whether or not you can get the full quote unquote from the API versus whether or not you can just get a base rate whenever you're doing a massive search for dates. So that is one of the things I wanted to talk about, actually. So that's perfect. The important part to note, though, I'm going to go ahead and skip over my intro again. But important part to know is when you're talking about the rates and you're talking about your pricing, the way you have it displayed is very important, and that's one of the things I'm going to show you with some pretty hard data, that just the way that you have your itemized add-on fees and stuff like that, those are big killers in conversion rates. So before I like really get deep, I want to talk about like your presentation, your overall, like how your website looks, and how you're showing your rates and how you're showing your actual properties. But before I do that, I'm going to get off in the weeds just for a second, but stick with me. So if I could see a show of hands, I guess maybe, what do you think of when you see this picture? So there's two different trains of thought here, right? There's the, oh, Starbucks, I love Starbucks. And then there's the other, just overpriced coffee. But what Starbucks has going for it is its brand and its consistency of the product, right? So when you're talking about your brand as a property manager and your consistency of your product, that is one of the biggest conversion rate factors. I've seen companies with higher rates, higher prices than their competitors, but they've been around longer. They have that ability and they have that reputation built up in the community to have higher rates. So rates alone aren't a conversion driving factor. So as we go into this a bit more, I was looking at some studies, and yeah, your brand is your biggest asset, but customers no longer base their loyalty on price or the product. Instead, they stay loyal with companies due to the experience they receive. And in fact, 86% of buyers are willing to pay more for a great customer experience. So that, before you even set your rates, you kind of need to ask yourself, I mean, can my brand be more expensive than my competitors because I have a good reputation out there? But there's a caveat. There's a pretty big caveat. So if a frustrating experience on a website hurts my opinion of the brand overall, 66% of people in the study that I read. A bad mobile experience makes me less likely to engage with the company, 55%. 52% said, if I really like the brand or company, like Starbucks, I'm disappointed if the mobile site is a bad experience. So we always talk about mobile first, mobile traffic. You know, you have more mobile traffic than you do any other traffic, but you've got to use that to your advantage. And so many property managers that I talk to, I can barely get them to look at their own website, let alone getting out their phone and trying to navigate through it and use it to be better than the OTAs, to better than they do it. So kind of powering ahead a little bit farther, I want to talk about the PDP, but feel free to interrupt me if there's anything you want to ask. But the PDP is the property display page. That's where your photos are, the information about the unit, just all that information, the map. There are some must-haves that I want to put in here, and this all of this stuff is going to be in the VRM Intel's fall 2020 issue. So wrote an article in there so you guys can check that out. I go into detail on this a bit more, but clear pricing breakdowns. I'll show you why that's a must-have here in a bit. Mobile first layout, just talked about that one. Reviews, you need reviews of your properties, as well as reviews on Google and reviews on your OTAs and reviews everywhere. So you do have to manage that balance. It's a conversion rate factor. Urgency features. Peter talked about those. I won't get into them too much, but gotta have those gotta book it now kind of actions. Split cost calculator, it's always important so multiple families can see how much each one of them are paying when they rent your 8-bedroom home on the beach. Non-generic property descriptions. so many times I see properties that just have simple text about the amenities at the resort, or it's a house, but it's not talking about all the details of the house itself and the view. And it's just very generic. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's near this, all these things to do in the area, but a lot of times I see a very, very not just dry property description that's not really about the property. So keep an eye out on that one.
Hey, Paul, can I point out one thing? It'd be great if you could focus in on 2 or 3 items, because we have limited time for the whole session.
Yep.
If you could focus on 2 or 3 items that really you feel like we haven't touched on yet, that like your remind me CTA kind of thing, that you can dig into, that would be great. And also I want to be able to give Jack some time.
Yeah, of course. So you can read the rest of that, but one of the things that we've implemented recently was the remind me to book. So the remind me to book is just a simple button. It's on the final checkout page whenever they use mobile, and it's where they enter their payment information. So we already know, and we see that mobile conversion rates are nowhere near desktop conversion rates. So people are still booking on their computers rather than their phones. So rather than trying to make them book on their phone, this is kind of my brainchild of remind me to book this later on a mobile device. Click that button, it pops up a window. It says, hey, that sounds great. We'll send you an email when you're ready to book. So that email then goes to their account and they can get to it on their desktop. So that's kind of what Jack was talking about with that synergy between call center versus online bookings. But this synergy, we have a big disconnect, and Peter can agree, there's a disconnect between the mobile device and what happens to that user once they get and they book. So something else that was good. But here's the main meat and potatoes, and I'll go through it real quick. Pricing options. We always have, how do I bundle my rates? What do I need to break out? There was a 2014 study that shows that 57% of shopping carts are abandoned due to higher than expected shipping costs. Now think of these shipping costs, compare those to your booking costs, or to your add-on fees. All those listed and itemized out. 37% abandoned the cart because of shipping and handling costs were listed too late in the checkout process, right? Let's keep going. All of these are good, but the bottom one, the 23%, I couldn't see or calculate an order cost up front. We all experience this, right? We know exactly what I'm talking about. Type something in, you want this product, and you have to go through 3 or 4 steps before you get the shipping, and you find out it's $12 and you don't want the product anymore. Same thing applies to us. So we did our own study, and this study was, if you look on the right here, here's a rate breakdown that's on a website. So got your rent, got your damage waiver, got your linen as an add-on, got your travel insurance, got your taxes, got your total. Seems pretty standard across everything, right? But as you look at it, okay, so this linen rental is an add-on. Why do I have it? Like, is it an add-on or is it part of the price? Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some math here, and I'm lost. I'm done. So we changed this up and we made it much more interactive and broken down so much better. Rent, taxes, and then you can add on your own personal items. So travel insurance, linen rental, we made these check boxes interactive to where when you click it, it'll automatically update the total right then and there. So let's look at these real quick, side by side. Nice boring layout on the left, nice pretty layout on the right that's interactive. So what'd that do? Double.
So Paul, I think this is really interesting and a good segue into talking to Jack, because and I've been a web nerd since Peter's known me. I was just telling somebody the other day, I remember the first time I ever met Peter, he didn't even have a backdrop and was sitting on a stool and telling me about this blue tent company he was going to create. So we're aging ourselves a little bit, but and conversion in the call center, how much larger is it, Jack, than on the web? It's exponentially higher in a call center, right? And it's not really one versus the other. It's, 80-90% of your guests that are on the phone are on the website at the same time. So it's very, very much a two-prong approach to driving a conversion. And sometimes it converts on the web and sometimes it converts over the phone. But what you just described seems more like the flow in a conversation. When somebody's on the phone talking to a guest, and Jack, I'll let you take over, they don't state one price in the beginning and a completely different price at the end, right, Jack?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not indeed. So backing that up, just a quick reference back to the, let me go ahead and show the correct screen here and make sure it is on the right one. Give me just a moment. Everything's frozen on mine. Give me just a moment here. Monitor 2.
While he's doing that,
All
Paul,
right.
Paul's article for the magazine about those web pages, property details pages, is really interesting. I just sent it to proofing. It's got the entire web page layout done and how to merchandise each section of the page. It's really, I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
Amber, you're muted. Can you guys see my screen though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So quick throwback to what we talked about on Tuesday, Paul, to your point about, or Amber, to your point about how the guest is on the website at the same time as they're on the phone with the agent. We did throw out a statistic of that case study that we did that showed that web conversions increased by 6.2% from voice inquiries year over year from that one client. So there is a powerful connection between the voice call center and your web traffic, where guests are just calling in to get an answer about something before they book. But it's when they're actually looking to make the transaction over the phone with the agent where you have some opportunity to actually monitor and improve agent performance. So if I'm going to showcase this for you, then let me get over to the right screen. Essentially what happens when you have a contact center full of agents whose job it is to convert those inquiries into reservations, there's some things that you need to be able to monitor. And so what we like to say at Navis is inspect what you expect. So in this case, looking at call conversion is just as critical as looking at your own website's conversion. That is going to give you an opportunity to identify team members who may be underperforming, and I'll get to some stats here in a second, to showcase where you should place your effort, especially when it's really busy. If I have A's, B's, and C's, which among those people am I actually going to coach to try to do better at call conversion on inbound reservations calls? So then you can actually target your effort, and then once you're done, measure the results, and then most importantly, reward success for those agents who are actually doing well. I have an ebook. Nope, I have not moved anything yet.
Oh, okay, never mind. My bad.
Yep. Can you see my cursor moving around here? So at any rate, I have an ebook that I'll share, and this will get published out to the team, so you'll be able to click this link later on when this comes out on the website. But what I would like to showcase for you really quickly is a quick case study. So did this advance to the next slide, Amy? Can you see that?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, how about that right there?
There you go. We're good.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so what we're looking at right here is some reporting on 3 different agents, Jamie, Elizabeth, and Robbie. So these folks answer phone calls and book reservations for a client of Navis. And over the time period in question, we can see the total amount of revenue that they booked. Here's where it gets important. If I'm a call center manager and I'm working with my marketing team and my revenue management team trying to understand where to place our effort to get more direct bookings, right here we can see that these agents combined brought in almost $750,000, which is no small pennies. But what we also see over here on the right-hand side is that on a team average of 19.7% conversion, we have an underperformer right here in poor Robbie Reed. So Robbie is converting at 6 points below the team average, which is critical, understanding that because of the fact that they have this much higher team goal to get two together, she's leaving money on the table. If I were to pull a calculator up really quickly and showcase this for you, I love to do math. Let's just say we know that Robbie handled 314 calls. So if we multiply 314 times the team average of 19.7% conversion, it means she should have booked 62 reservations, but she only booked 43. Okay, so now let's subtract the 43 reservations from that. So she missed out on 19 reservations total, and their average revenue per booking in this case, the team average of $38.81, means that Robbie Reed in that time period cost the company $73,188, which is a lot of money to consider. So this helps me identify, I don't need to talk to Jamie. She's converting at 27% and has a $4,600 average stay value. Elizabeth is doing just fine, but Robbie is my opportunity for coaching. So this right here helps you identify who you need to talk to, and then what you need to talk about. And in this case, when you can look in to see the actual non-booking reasons, in this particular instance, a good chunk of them were no availability, but more than half of them right here was rate too high. So we know that by and large, our guests are saying that's too expensive and they're booking elsewhere. So how do you coach Robbie Reed to overcome some of those pricing objections? Some of it's going to be easier to do, like the automation we mentioned earlier, where the email marketing campaign or whatever's on your website is appended to the lead form when they receive that call. But overall, how do you coach someone to better success? The ebook that I'm going to share with you at the end of this, and which you'll be able to click through, is about 30 pages long. It's free. It's on the Navis website. You can read through it. It's a wonderful tool for you to utilize and understand how to build a culture of sales at your property, including inspecting your expectations. But what I really want to talk about is the results of that instead. So more recently, I was able to dig into an executive business review that we did with one of our clients here. And what they found, and this was for last year, so back during normal times, they had a period of time right here between May and September of 18 versus May and September of 19, where their rates increased by 10%. The average revenue per booking went up year over year. And so, of course, their rate resistance also increased with it. They worked with their Navis client success strategist during this time to help train the agents how to better overcome some of those price objections and be able to actually increase their conversion rate. So their inbound call conversion right here went up from 35.6% to over 37% for the same time period, even though they were charging more. So here again, back to the math part of the conversation. Let's pull this up. Here's a real life scenario of what can happen when you don't coach and score or inspect what you expect. We know, pull this up right here. We know that they did total lead calls of 40,818 in the previous year. Sorry, which one's which? 40,053, so 40053, and multiply that times last year's conversion of 0.356. So that means that they should have booked 14,000 reservations at the average stay value of 916. So multiply times 916. So they would have booked $13 million. But instead they booked $13.6 million. So you see the difference. That coaching netted this client almost $600,000 in new revenue that they would have lost if they hadn't been able to invest in the team that way. So this right here is tangible proof that shows that your website is critical. And when people land on the phones, it's super critical. And in Robbie Reed's case, it was $73,000 for 1 month's worth of effort. And in this case, in one summer, it was $600,000. So that's where I'd like to maybe point you toward when you're thinking about, is it worth investing effort and money in my human capital? And in this case, absolutely it is. And the data show that. Does that kind of make sense or lead you down the right path there?
No, Amber, we're going to have to, we have about 2 minutes before we start the next one.
All right,
yeah, I don't know if we had any questions or what you're thinking, Amy, but I think we got everybody's info in.
I think what I really wanted to think through is like, the fact is, it looks like that you can't ignore, you can't step over $1 to pick up a quarter, right? Like you can't, go do all the new stuff and without making sure that this part of it is nailed down and taken care of. And I think looking through, we've all gotten to see a lot of websites lately as we've all looked for where we can escape from our own situations, I mean, Amber, you just went somewhere to get away from California. So it's like, it's interesting to start seeing that the marketing departments and the sales and marketing departments need to, like, there's a lot that needs to be continued to be focused on in a very diligent way in order for the pricing to happen. So I think that what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, I'd love to schedule a follow-up for this in the next few weeks and have a kind of a part 2 of this discussion. I think all of these guys are, their companies are writing in the next issue of the magazine, which is my next project after this conference. So that will be coming out in the middle of October. You guys, thank you so much for doing this. Our next, is this something you want to share? Is this a white paper, Jack?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize my screen was still being shared. No, good. This will be in the presentation. I'll get it to Rebecca and she'll upload it to the website and everyone can click straight through from there.
Yeah, it looks like she just finally got to Mississippi. So we'll hopefully get all these videos loaded sooner than later. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Amber.
Bye, ball guys.
See you guys.